Hello viewers, welcome to the Bachelor course of Population Studies. In our last lecture, we discussed about the population reality of India. Today, we will discuss about the future population of India. India today is the second most populous country of the world, and it is expected that its population would surpass China by the year 2030. Actually, the population of India is expected to surpass that of China around 2028, when both countries will have populations of around 1.45 billion. Thereafter, India's population will continue to grow for several decades to around 1.6 billion and then decline slowly to 1.5 billion in 2100. The population of China, on the other hand, is expected to start decreasing after 2030, possibly reaching 1.1 billion in 2100. The future projections of the population of any country can be made on basis of current and past birth rates, death rates and the fertility rates. With an expected global fertility rates at 2.05 children per woman, it is expected that the total population increase in the world between 2005 and 2050, about half would be contributed by merely 9 countries, in which India would be the largest contributor. It is estimated that by the year 2050, the total population of India would be 1.6 billion people as compared to 1.4 billion in China. However, we have a number of projections about future population of the world as a whole, depending upon the assumptions regarding the fertility rates. But the very genuine question is, why we need to estimate the future population? The reason is simple. A census tells us how many we were, but not how many we are. A census counts the population that is living in a country in a given moment, usually during a day, which is called the census day. However, the population figures are outdated very next day because people die and are born every day. Population projection provides us with an estimate of the future population size and age and sex composition at any point in time after the date of the census. Knowledge of present and future population size and composition by age and sex is essential for planning, policy making and to conduct diverse socio-economic analysis. A population projection estimates the needs and amount of resources that has to be distributed to satisfy all these needs. For example, a population projection about the age structure of population helps the country to chart out different plans for immunization, future demand for classrooms and teachers, the demand for housing and utilities, etc. Moreover, a population projection also provides the denominators for several indicators such as diverse economic activity rates. Therefore, it is interesting to estimate the future populations in India. Now, we would discuss about the projections about size and growth of population in India. The population in India during the year 2014 is estimated to be 1,267 million, and it is projected that it would grow to 1,400 74 million in 2030, 1,671 million in 2060. The year-wise size of population during these years can be observed from this figure. The figure shows that the population of India has grown from 449.6 million in 1960 to 1,267 million in 2014, and it is expected that it would grow to 1,357 million in 2020 and then 1,474 million in 2030. The slope of the population curve clearly indicates that although the size of population is growing over time, but the rate of change in population in each year that seems to be declining. This can be observed from the next figure. The figure shows that the growth rates of population in India would sharply decline in the future time period. The growth rate of population became lower than 2% for the first time in the decade of 90s, which came down to about 1.25% in 2013, and it is projected that the year-on-year growth of population would be lower than 1% only after 2020, reaching to 0.625% in 2030. Now, let us come to the future projections for birth rates, death rates, total fertility rates and life expectancy. As discussed earlier, the future population of India can only be estimated on basis of the projections regarding the birth rates, death rates, total fertility rates and the life expectancy. The projections for the birth rates and the death rates, these are given in this figure. The figure shows that both the birth rate and death rate have shown the declining trends, but after 2011, while the death rate will nearly flatten, the birth rate shows the tendencies of sharper decline, coming quite close to each other by the year 2030. In 2011, the birth rate of about 8.82 births per thousand of population and a death rate of about 21 per thousand of population would come down to about 8% and 14% per thousand by the year 2030. A number of reasons may be cited for this narrowing gap between the birth rate and the death rate. Economic growth, higher nutritional standards, increase in life expectancy, breakup of the joint family norm are some of the mutually reinforcing factors governing the fall in birth rate as well as the death rate in the country. The increase in life expectancy in coming future can be observed from this figure. The figure shows that the life expectancy in India is expected to grow from 65 years in 2010 to 69 years in 2020, which is further expected to reach at about 72 years in 2030. The life expectancy of the females would remain higher than that of the males. The gap between the two is expected to grow, as in future with faster economic growth we can expect greater improvements in maternal and female health, leading to greater change in life expectancy of the females than the males. The figure shows that in 2010 the females are expected to live about 3 extra years than the males, but by the year 2030 this difference would grow to more than 5 years, as it is expected that by the year 2030 the life expectancy of the males would be 69.68 years as compared to 74.95 years for the females. Another important determinant of the future population is the fertility rate, which is defined as the average number of children a woman would bear during her lifetime. Another related concept is replacement level fertility. This replacement level fertility is the total fertility rate at which woman gives birth to enough babies to sustain population levels. If there were no mortality in the female population until the end of the childbearing years, then the replacement level of total fertility rate would be very close to 2. In developed countries, replacement level fertility rate can be taken as requiring an average of 2.1 children per woman. In countries with high infant and child mortality rates, however, the average number of births may need to be much higher. These may range from 2.5 to 3.3 in developing countries because of very high mortality rates. Taken globally, the total fertility rate at replacement is 2.33 children per woman. At this rate, the global population growth would tend towards 0. The total fertility rates in India were quite high in 1960. These were about 6 children per woman during her childbearing age, but by the year 2011, the total fertility rate for Indian women has come down to 2.5, which is nearly the same as that of the average replacement level fertility rates in the developing countries. It is stated that India has entered the third stage of demographic transition with its present level of fertility rates. But at the same time, it is expected to fall further in the coming years. The future projections of the total fertility rate in India can be observed from this figure. Currently, India lies in medium fertility rate category, which is defined as the fertility rate between 2.1 to 5 children per woman. The figure shows that the total fertility rate in India is expected to decline from about 2.5 in 2011 to 2.28 by the year 2020, and after the year 2025, it is expected to fall below 2 and would stabilize at 1.9 between 2026 and 2030. But this is lower than the minimum replacement rate of 2 children per woman. These below replacement fertility levels would translate into significant decline in populations once the impact of the gains in life expectancy and net migration rates on total population growth are weakened. In simple words, if there is no migration, when a couple dies after completing its normal age, they must be replaced by 2 offsprings to sustain the given size of the population. A TFR less than 2 means that the given population would be replaced by less than 2 persons for every 2 deaths, which will lead to a fall in population size. Initially, when the life expectancy increases, this fall is not immediately experienced, but after the changes in life expectancy just come close to 0, the impact of lower than replacement level fertility rates leads to contraction in population size. Now, we shall discuss the age structure of Indian population and the labor force. The life expectancy, birth rates and the death rates distributed by gender change the gender wise and age wise distribution of Indian population. This is better depicted by the age pyramids. The broader base today shows the expanding population, while the narrow base means contracting population in the future. The population pyramid of India in 2010 is shown in this figure. Since India's pyramid had a stronger base in 2010, it can be easily inferred that the population of India would be expanding in the future. Moreover, we can see the bulge of population in age groups less than 50 years. Within this broader group, a greater bulge can be observed in case of the age groups between 5 to 29 years of age. If we look forward, by 2030, India will be the country which will have the youngest population in the world. India has about 650 million people below the age of 30, 450 million people below the age of 20, and if India carries on the same trend with an average age of 26, it will be the youngest country in the world in 2030, and in 2050 probably be the only labor surplus country. This represents a tremendous opportunity, but at the same time it would also mean greater demand for education facilities for this age group. The current age structure projects that about 1 million young people will enter the labor force every month for the next 20 years, making it a labor surplus economy. However, the things would not remain the same in the coming years, as the declining birth rates and the fertility rates would narrow the base of the population pyramid in the future. The UN projections for the population pyramid in 2040 are shown in this figure. In 2040, India would have a uniform age distribution and a smooth, symmetric pyramid showing that the population thereafter would rather grow at a stationary rate, which shows that India would continue to enjoy the demographic bonus for a very long period in future. A greater share of population below 60 years of age shows relatively lower dependency ratios and greater share of productive population. It has its own economic implications, as lower dependency ratios means higher savings and more of the investable resources, which further enhance the speed of economic growth. The current and future age structure of the population in India has very important policy implications for the Indian as well as the global job market. A report by Ernst & Young and Fickey, India, has shown that India will have one of the youngest population in the world by 2030, and given its age structure and its future size of population, it will have a huge labor surplus to cater the global job market. These projections can be observed from this figure. The figure shows that in 2030, the average age in India will be 32 years and it will have one of the youngest population in the world, while the average age in China will be 43 years during the same year. On the other hand, the figure also shows that due to aging of the population, many countries like USA, China, Japan, Russia and UK along with many other countries will have to face labor shortages in the year 2020, and their cumulative shortage is estimated to be 56.5 million, while India will have a surplus of 47 million workers in the year 2030. Due to rising level of tertiary education in India and the advantage of having English speaking young professionals, Indian youth has greater chances of getting absorbed in this global job market. At the same time, Indian job market will also be generating 145 million additional jobs in the service as well as the industrial sector during the period 2010 to 2030. And if we add the retirements and other dropouts, this number may be 250 million. But even after fulfilling the domestic requirements, India can become a large supplier of skilled manpower to the labor deficient markets around the world. But this will require huge investments in higher education of India, not only in quantitative terms, but also in the qualitative terms. Now, we come to conclusion of this lecture. India is the second largest country of the world in terms of population size. However, given its current rate of growth of population, its population would become just equal to that of China in 2028, and in 2030, India would be the most populated country in the world. The future population in India may bring many opportunities as well as the challenges. We have observed that the birth rates as well as the death rates, they have declined, while the life expectancy that has increased. This will change the age structure of Indian population in future. It is being projected that India is able to reap the benefits of demographic dividend even up to the year 2040, as it would have greater share of working population as compared to most of the developing as well as the developed economies. In 2030, the Indian population would be the youngest one and will be the largest labor surplus economy. This raises the hope that Indian labor will have huge demand in the international labor market. But this opportunity can be availed of if our governments invest sufficiently in higher education as well as the health facilities. After all, the international job market absorbs the workers with higher level of skills only. Apart from it, the government has to fasten its belts for rising responsibilities of increased size of population. Gradually, there will be greater number of old people to take care of. The unemployment rates can also be higher if the economy fails to absorb the additions in labor force. There will be increased pressure of housing and other basic facilities. And since the population in India is also moving towards the cities at an unprecedented scale, the growing population will also mean a matching increase in demand for urban facilities. Of course, a rising proportion of productive population is a positive feature, but this proportion of population also demands best of the facilities for raising their quality of life. This segment of population also requires better education facilities along with the better economic and social infrastructure. Therefore, the Government of India would have to take care of the changing needs of the changing structure of Indian population. Otherwise, we would not be able to reap the benefits of demographic dividend. I hope you would have enjoyed this lecture. In the next lecture, we shall discuss about population and development. Till then, bye bye and wish you all the best.